Welcome to The Crucible, Conversations for the Curious. I'm Hamish, your host. In each episode, you'll hear from everyday people who've been through profound, life-altering experiences, from life-threatening illnesses or accidents, deep existential crisis, addiction, or having to make life choices that have ultimately brought them peace, connection, and purpose. They've all stared into the abyss, walked through the fire of their own personal dark nights of the soul, and emerged from the other side transformed. This podcast is for anyone going through an awakening, a time of massive change, or questioning the meaning of life. You are not alone. You can get through this. I promise you, life is more meaningful and beautiful on the other side. Hi everybody. Today we are chatting with Rikke, and she is one of my great friends. I've known her for 3 years now. We met on a mastermind with Jack Canfield, and I've asked her to come along because she's got a remarkable story. So, hi Rikke, tell us a little bit about you and your awakening.
Thank you, Hamish, for allowing me to tell a story here on your podcast. A little bit about me. I am a social worker, a trauma therapist, specialist in creating safety for children and young people, working with their families and healing trauma. And I've been doing that in my business for 13 years now. And this is actually a part of my awakening process, because when I was in 2018, I've been an independent social worker and trauma therapist and specialist in this field, training a lot of professionals around the world, around Denmark. And in 2018, I was at a very good place in life. I felt that I still remember that I really had the sense of being free in so many ways. I was a single woman, living the best life. I had a fantastic job. Like my business was going so good. I was financially well. In so many ways, I felt really felt safe and free to express myself and live the best life that I could. And so the summer of 2018 was just a really fantastic time. And at that time, I was also settled, I was also looking into becoming a mom, because was approved for adoption, a single mom adoption. And I was kind of settled into, keeping working less. I've been working really hard for many years, and in a very difficult field with so much pain and suffering and trauma and violence and neglect, and I loved it, and I really felt it was meaningful and helpful and important for me to do this. But it was also time at that time was I felt that I could settle and invest a little bit more in my own life and looking into becoming a mom myself, and maybe slow down a little bit work-wise, and all was well. And then I saw a documentary, and I still remember the night when I was sitting here, and I really, with that good feeling. And it was a summer night, and I love summers in Copenhagen, and it was and I saw a British documentary on the Rohingya refugees in Myanmar and the genocide, I think it's called The Killing Fields of Myanmar. And it was a British documentarist that done this documentary, I think about maybe only 8 or 9 months, very shortly after the genocide, and from the refugee camp in Bangladesh called Cox's Bazar. And it was, I was sitting in my couch watching it, and there was something happening while I was watching this documentary um, that I never experienced before, because it's not that I haven't seen, and it's, as I told you, my work life has been full of, I've been in the midst of so much suffering, and I'm used to dealing with it. And I've also not looked away from genocide and all the other things that's happening out in the world. I'm really good at, dealing with it and acknowledging it instead of looking away, and also, you know, considering to support nonprofits and, do what I can to actually make a difference in the world. But and when I was watching this documentary, I watched it from a different perspective that I ever done before. It was like with eyes wide open, and my heart just was blowing up wide open, because I was listening, and it was particularly the women's eyes that was telling about the horrific things that they have been put through. And I don't want to, um, you know, uh, go into much detail about it here, but it was like the sexual violence that you use, like that is used in war as a weapon of war. It was like, have their babies thrown into burning houses, and it was so horrific. And they were sitting there with their eyes all dead. They were still alive. They were in a refugee camp, but their eyes were dead. And the children that they were holding, they were also like, um, living deaths. And I was, there was also, uh, men telling about what they have experienced, and that was horrific too. But it was the women's eyes, actually, and the children in their arms that really made it, did something where I felt my heart was just opening up, and I was like, I want to do something for this. I want to do something um, with it, and I just couldn't let it go. And I was sitting there in my couch and feeling all, so happy and well, and everything was good before I saw this. And I was just sitting with it, with my eyes, like tears just running down my eyes, and the compassion for these people. It was like so immense. And I I thought to myself, but what can I do about it? I was, what can I do? I'm sitting here, and what can I do? So, and it wouldn't, so, it was a 50 minutes, or maybe an hour, and then it was over. But it put an everlasting impression on me. I still, and after that, I considered, I just kept returning to, but what can I do about it? I just couldn't let it go. My soul had actually been really awakened for what was next in my life. And that was in the summer of 2018, and now we're in the summer of 2024. And I can tell you that in many ways, I'm still living here in Copenhagen, the same apartment, the same couch, everything in many ways is the same, but in also completely turned around and different than it was in this back 6 years ago. And everything, even though I'm also I'm turned 50 now, and I was 44 back then, but it's also a completely different person than I used to be, because of this one documentary. That was somehow the call that my soul needed to hear. So I think I've heard the cry of the women of the world that's so vulnerable, and that's where I started to listen to that voice that says, "What can I do about it?" And while I was, I was actually realizing that, well, creating safety for, my specialty is actually to create safety in unsafe environments. Hmm. So the what I do professionally is actually something that could be helpful for these women. So I create safety in unsafe environments, and I heal trauma. And it was the dead eyes and the dead, living dead bodies. That was trauma, and that was also something that I could do something about. And so I suddenly realized that professionally I had the skills to do something about it. But what? So after I had this inner dialogue with myself, and I realized, well, actually that's something that I know something about and I can do something about professionally, because that's what I do every day. But it's more with the focus on children and young people, creating safety for children and young people. But what if I could use that to help create safety for women? That would also help the children, and in that sense, it would be same, but it would just have a different perspective or a different take on it. So I started to investigate. But how is the situation on safety for women around the world, and what about refugee camps? That's where I started. I started to look into how is the situation in Cox's Bazar as a refugee camp, and I realized that even though the women is supposed to be safe in refugee camps, what I've heard from people being in refugee camps is that the women is not. They are so vulnerable and exposed to rape and sexual violence still. So they don't dare to go to the bathrooms, and if they share in the night and get a lot of physical illnesses from this, and and they don't dare to leave their children because what's going to happen. And so they're, even though they're supposed to be in a safe environment, it's not. And so I got more fuel on that intention of actually want to do something about it. And I also realized that this was not just it was not the safety for women was around the world was not just uh, for women in refugee camps, because when I started to look into all the details about and statistics and the situation of women around the world in general, I was really shocked, because here I was in Copenhagen as I couldn't be in a better position. I'm a Scandinavian woman, well educated, got as I said, a very good business, successful in this sense. I'm free in every way. I didn't even have family at that point, so I was actually in so many ways had so much freedom and the sense of safety. I'm living in one of the most safe areas in Copenhagen, and set my life up in a very safe way. So I couldn't be more privileged. And as a privileged, and I must say, it's like, as a privileged white woman, Scandinavian welfare system, some of the most safe places, I felt that I needed to use that privilege to support other women in other countries in a way that was meaningful. There was a sense of responsibility of not to use my privilege to try to change the circumstances for women in general. And that was like, oh wow. But what am I going to do about that? And so it kind of just turned bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, well, but what, hey, I'm supposed to be a mom. I was supposed to work less. Oh, sorry, it's my AirPods. I was supposed to work less and enjoy life more and not work as much. And, and I was turning into, supposed to be a mom and care for my own life and my own child and, all these things. And then suddenly this huge vision and mission appeared and I didn't know what to do about it. At first, I was like overwhelmed by it. And I was like, and then it, first it started like small rings in the water of thoughts and consideration that just wouldn't let go. But then suddenly it just kicked in really that, oh, this is not, this is here for good. It's not going to go away. I need to take it seriously. And then something happened, then the inner process that like the really big awakening. Sorry, they keep dropping out. Then the crisis really kicked in. And because I think what happened when I when I look back, what activated the crisis was that suddenly I didn't feel that the freedom that I felt before. I kind of felt that my life was it was like the shirt was too small. Suddenly, when you have a shirt on and it's not, it's too small and you just don't feel comfortable in it anymore. And it's like, and that's how it started. It was like, well, everything, all the things that I used to just, enjoy and think was the right thing for me. And it started to just not feel right anymore in the same way. And I guess that was a call for something different, and something bigger and something, like my soul mission somehow that was calling on me big time there. So what normally felt comfortable and good, and I was happy and well and everything and safe, I just didn't feel like, no, it's not. I don't fit into my life anymore. Yeah, I guess that was it. I don't fit into my. Well, now it's really. I don't fit into my life anymore. And when you don't do that, when you expand like this in such a short time, because it was a really short time. It was over like the summer. It turned everything upside down. Whoa. And I just had to go with the flow suddenly. And I was like, what is it that's not fitting? What is it that, I used to be, I was so pleased a month ago, like 2 months ago. What's happening to me? It was really, what's happening to me? I was so good, I was so settled. And now I'm rumbling. And what is this rumble all about? And there were so many things that came up, and it's actually been a 6 years process of cleansing all the things and looking into all the things that wasn't working for me anymore. It's been a 6 years process of taking everything up, looking at everything, every relations, every work task that I used to, enjoy, every habit that and so many, everything has been up to consideration, been looking into it and thinking, what is right for me now, and what do I need to leave behind in order to do what I'm here to do. because I couldn't. That was a really big step up, and I couldn't continue doing what I used to do if I wanted to um, fulfill that vision and mission that I had. And one of the things that I used to do was that even though I did have a successful business, and even though I did a lot of training and I put myself out there was a part of me that was playing small. And because here in Denmark, we have this saying that, it's really that we shouldn't think that we are somebody. Don't think you are somebody. That's and I guess maybe we have a particular law that we call it, and that's in our cultures not so helpful. Yeah, and we and that was a part of me that was as a part of my cultural background that kept me down and kept me not expressing myself and expressing myself fully, and also not taking, believing that I could and I should take it any further than where I was at the time of my big awakening. And so I had to look really deep into myself about what was both my own trauma and my own collective trauma, in the looking into it in intergenerational trauma in my family, in so many ways, to see what was it actually that was keeping me afraid of living out my full potential. And that has been some kind of process.
1 hour TV completely changes your world. I mean, that's quite scary, isn't it? You've got this job, this career, helping, nurturing, supporting, and then suddenly the universe goes, here's a little seed. And in that case of that hour, it's grown, and you've gone, everything I've done is fine, safe, helpful, but just in Denmark, and now the world. I mean, that's just spectacular. And I love what you said about the fact that then you had to just reassess everything, just everything. Am I doing this right? Am I doing this? What about
just
this?
Everything. Yeah,
just everything. Yeah,
just everything. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, just a small thing. Yeah, everything.
But I think that's what an awakening is, isn't it? It is an opportunity to reassess our lives in every single way. We are creative. Now you can create the world however you want it, and you've got that vision. And it's just a case of doing that and checking in everything and what's valuable for you and what's not, what's out of date. I think that's an incredible story.
Oh, thank you.
So how did you question everything? What did you do to sort of look at that bit of your life and that bit of your life and go, how did you process the changes?
I think what happened was that I needed to take one step at a time, one realization at a time, and that's where it's been a really intense process. But it's also been, when I look back, I somehow can see that it's been a structured process. And really interesting to see how everything just somehow had its own organic life, taking one step at a time. It was like feeling like being in flow of what was the next thing to look at, to move forward. And so it's been looking into how, I guess, as I see it, it's like the all the barriers that was in me to use my voice and express myself freely, because I wasn't free at that point. I realized I was free in so many other ways, but of speaking my voice authentically as who I am, with no inner critic, or with no inner um, barrier of being afraid of the response, and the, so I guess that was what it was all about. And then one step at a time, look into what kind of beliefs I had, most importantly, what kind of beliefs I had about myself, about other people, or life, relationships, and understanding it from my background also, and then see what have I learned. And that's where the intergenerational and cultural and collective trauma comes in, right? So what have I learned about being a human being that wasn't right? Because we are worthy of love and belonging as who we are. I knew that intellectually, and I was working for that in so many rights. But having a women's worth organization as I created, I started to call it a women's right organization, or self, a help, a help organization, or whatever you call it in English. But I realized that it was actually a women's worth organization, because this was what I found in myself, was that I too, as a woman, even though I was a free Scandinavian white woman, I too was suppressed, and I too was not feeling worthy of love and belonging as who I was, like completely. And it wasn't true, but it was the imprint, it was the impact my life had had so far. And I guess that was not, an impact on, I guess that's what all human beings are actually struggling with.
I think you're absolutely right there. I think it doesn't matter where you're from, you've still got that self-worth or lack of self-worth. And it is intergenerational. Your parents, my parents, teach me something from their beliefs, and it goes back and back. I unless your parents change the way they pass knowledge on, you're being taught by your grandparents or great grandparents.
Exactly.
In my case, that's Victorian, and they were a fairly staunch, narrow-minded lot, and that has reflected in my upbringing. And as you said, you've had to look at everything and said, "Is that right? Is that right? Is that right? Is that right?" And then it's just like, no. I am worthy. Love isn't transactional. That's not the way to do things. That's important to me. And I think the awakenings allow us to see the world, see how culture, upbringing just is, and it isn't necessarily right for us now.
No, exactly. And I also feel that, the process has also been in so many ways, I have found self-compassion. Like it has been a journey of self-compassion, looking at it and thinking, oh, now I understand why I'm struggling with this. But, and it's okay. You're okay. One step at a time. And at the same time, feeling a lot of compassion with my parents and my family and my, my humanity as such, Also, we're just a product of, you know, generation after generation, and the culture wherever we're based around the world, we can't see us not being influenced by the culture. And there's a lot of beautiful things about cultural things, but there's also this other impact that we have, as I said, that that has helped us survive. I see it as a, also as a trauma therapist. I see all these things as a very important things of surviving, and also being, keeping us together to create the best possibility of survival as a collective and also as individuals. So when I see these things in myself, when I'm like, oh damn, why did you do that? And I was like, well, that's my best survivor. I start
Yeah.
to, and I help other people see that the same way, is that we are so great survivors here, human beings, but we are so much more. So when we are our most well-regulated, version of ourselves, we're so different from the survivors that we also develop, right? So actually, but acknowledging that both live, they're both here, and is a part of me, and I'm okay with that, and I'm still, I am still worthy of belonging. Also, when I become a lion, and I'm not the best version of me, yeah, and so there's been so much healing in this, like taking that inner critic, looking at the journey that I have in the last 6 years is also like really holding my inner critic in the hand and listening to what it's saying, and then have a conversation with it to soften its voice, so it's not so. Today, I've it's kind of silent now. I used to be my own worst inner critic, and today it's not a critical voice. It's more about the pain of learning. It's more about understanding what I need to learn, but not being hard on myself anymore. And I guess that was on the other side, is that other side of this process was actually finding my own worth, acknowledging my own worth. And then from there, I can actually help other people really find their own worth. And I guess that's what it takes to have a non-profit organization for working for Women's Worth organization, is that I need to not just be a privileged person in so many ways, but I have to own it myself. What I want to bring to the world, I need to be the living evidence, maybe I would say I would need to be in integrity with my voice and the voice I'm here to raise now. So it's been a struggle also with the organization, creating a non-profit organization. So is a huge thing. So it turned out that I created I still got my business, Safe Children, but then I created this non-profit organization, Sister Power International, and it was where I thought that I was going to go international. And I thought, it took me to India. I have a great partner in India. And I was, because I got the advice that refugee camps is not the best place for you to start, because you're talking about safety. And that's actually the country's responsibility, like the government's responsibility. So if you come out and say that it's not safe, you are not going to be able to do any work. So, and there's a lot of organization working there anyway. But someone said to me, "Oh, you look into India," and I was like, "India? I never wanted to go to India." That's a funny thing. It's like oh my God, not India, because my whole life I've been like, no, that's for me. And a lot of people had said to me, oh, you would love India. I'm like, nah, don't think so. For me, live. Yeah, but it turned out that I was, going to India. Suddenly I saw myself on a plane to India, visiting my partner out there, Sister Lucy and her Mahia organization that makes the most beautiful work and that I really want to support more. And I just felt so happy, even though I just lost my grandma a month before when I left, or a couple of weeks before I left for India, and that was in 2020. I just felt so happy out there. I just felt, wow, this is a part of the bigger, the bigger plan for me. And then I came back, and then COVID hit, and I couldn't move for several years. And I was like, what? I was stuck back in the shirt that wasn't, suiting me anymore. And I started my nonprofit in January 2020. So from 2018 to 2020, that was 1.5 years. From there, it was the struggling, and it was finding out, what am I going to do about it, and how am I going to have 2 businesses now, and becoming a mom, and at one point I thought that I didn't want to bring along my other business, that I would just want to leave everything back in Denmark, because it was only the bigger international vision that I was going. So, and that was the part of actually going one step and taking one thing at a time that just didn't feel right anymore, and look at it and seeing, what is it about it that's not feeling right? Or maybe I can, this part actually do feel right. And then, okay, I'm going to do more of this, but I'm going to leave this behind. And then at one point I was just thinking, oh, my whole business, I'm going to close it, and I'm going to do only my nonprofit. But it turned out that wasn't right either. But I was ready. The interesting thing was that I was ready to leave everything. I was ready to leave Copenhagen and go to India, even considered going to India for 6 months, or to start the projects and just leave Copenhagen. I was ready to let go of everything. And that's where it turned into a really interesting process of looking into it. No, I'll keep this one, because that's actually really important. So fast forward to COVID situation and the lockdown. And I just came home the night before. I came in from Mumbai the night before Denmark was shut down, the lockdown. And I was like, I work on divine timing. And then right after, the whole adoption situation came up, and I had to make a decision. The week after the lockdown, I was contacted by the authorities, and I had to make a decision whether I would become a mom for one, or if I wanted to do what I'm here to do. And that was the I guess, if you have I think I've had many dark night of the soul, like throughout my life, where it's really where I needed to take some serious decisions, and that has changed my life. But if there is one dark night of the soul, I guess that was right there, when I had to make a decision whether I would go into a process of adopting a child that would need me 100% for the rest of my life, or at least the child's life, or if I should, as I say, do what I'm here to do.
What a choice!
and that was if I thought that I was in a crisis up till looking into all the things and turning my life around, slowly turning my around, and this was that was like an earthquake that just sent me off into the most intense crisis that I've ever been in my life. And I decided that I would go with my soul mission. And I needed to know with myself that night when I had to really make that decision. I knew that I had to be 100% clear on that I would never, that I shouldn't be able to, that I shouldn't be able to look back and regret it. It was a door closing and another one opening up full time that I would never ever consider regretting, because it had to be that clear. And it has been. I never look back and regret it. I've always known that I made the right decision for me and for what the change that I want to create in the world.
How did you manage to reconcile that?
I felt it was like kind of breaking, I felt if I felt that something in me just like and I guess that was, but it wasn't. It just felt like that, and this by the pain, the amount of pain that my body suddenly should hold, and I guess because it was so clear in me that I made the right decision for me and for the child, not least the child, because I knew that if I had to let go of not working with other children still, like violence prevention and protection of children and healing trauma and women and children, and what I do, if I couldn't do that anymore, I would be frustrated. I would be out of my, I wouldn't be able to become the best mom. I had the potential because I'm a professional and I know everything about what that child needed to, the care that it needed to have, and that's why we were matched. But I wouldn't become the best mom because there would be a part of me that would always miss, that couldn't let go of the other children and women and what I'm here for. So one way or the other, all the things that I've learned about nervous system reaction as a traumatist and crisis and everything, I used on myself, every tip and technique and trick and, knowledge and everything I've used on myself to heal that overwhelming experience, overwhelming pain coming from that choice. So it's been, again, like understanding that I did the right thing for who I am. It wouldn't have been the right thing for other people, but you have to be able to make the choices from again who you are, who you are, and not what other people expect of you or what would be right for other people. And luckily, I created a safety plan for myself. I worked with safety plans for for children. So I created a safety plan for myself, for people that love me and support me, and they all helped me in that moment, saying, "Hey, you do what's right for you." So if I get emotional because it was so beautiful to actually have that support. And I'm also a very privileged person, being all loved and supported for who I am, right? And I could take that in, and also as a part of the healing of being worthy of love and belonging. That one thing is that what we learn about ourselves, and start believing that we're not worthy of love and belonging as we are. And there's a lot of reasons why we get that imprint on us as human beings, but it was not true, and I was so sure that right at the time. So during the process of healing, I had all the love and support that I needed, and I had COVID. That actually my business was shut down because I couldn't do anything. So I couldn't do anything of what I normally did. I was stuck in a situation where all I could do was actually care for myself and take all the love and support in that I got from family and friends.
I think that is beautiful, and your job is helping and supporting people. Then you get the help and support that you want, and then everything leading up to that choice, that watching that clip, watching that video, that choice, and then saying, do I want to give all my love to one person where I will not be satisfied, or will I close that door on that part of my life, which must have been so hard to go with your vision and your heart's, your soul's wish, your purpose. I mean, just take my hat off to you. That is
Thank you.
Incredibly amazing, incredibly hard, but what a choice. And then COVID gave you that support system. It's almost like the universe said, right, this little bit, there's the next bit, there's the fork in the road, and you went that way, and here's everything you need to do it. So now there's no more COVID. Yeah, staggering. Absolutely staggering.
And it's been tough is a mild word.
Yeah.
But what I've learned from it is that, I can sit here and I can be vulnerable and I can share it with you, and I can put, I don't mind also sharing the tears publicly. Now it's, being out in a podcast with you. And I guess that's what it's all taught me these last, is that showing up as who I am, with what I have to offer, and what what I'm full of, is also being vulnerable, and being okay with being vulnerable, being okay with showing up, and letting people into the more difficult, more struggling, or the difficult, struggling, vulnerable part of my history and my life today too, because that's life, and that's where that's life, and that's humanity, right? And I have a message to the world, and I have a lot of social workers and professionals, family therapists, and that I'm working with, and I am their supervisor, and I ask, I talk about vulnerability, of being able to share. I just written a book where the part of it is about vulnerability. And again, if I shouldn't be able to do it and be, show that it's okay to be, then I shouldn't speak of it, right? So everything that's included in my message to the world, both in my nonprofit Women's Worth organization and the book that I've just written that's coming out here in June on children and safety for children and trauma healing. I have, through that process, I have been able, the lesson that I had to learn was actually to live it myself before I could speak it, like internationally, like publicly, like in a much bigger, grander scale. And when I look back at it, and I'm here today where I feel greater than ever before. It's I've just turned 50, and I had the biggest celebration, and I feel greater, even much more greater than I did in 2018, because I am aligned. I am so aligned with myself and with everything that's in my life, and with the higher meaning of my life, or the higher purpose of my life. And the divine timing that I've seen when I look retrospective at it, and I see the divine timing of everything that was in these 6 years that had me land where I am today, I just get blown away. That's a completely other podcast, because I could tell like hours and hours and hours about, what I've seen, how it's just, man, was this why this was, was this why that was happening? So I could, get to hear, and now and now I feel that, somehow reborn completely.
I think you've mentioned two things there that are incredibly important in that awakening. It definitely is that introspection. So stopping and then joining those dots, looking back, and going, that makes sense, and that, and that, and that. That's incredibly important through this process, isn't it? And then the other thing, you've surrendered an outcome. You've realized you can't do the child and your vision, so you've had to surrender that. You've had to surrender certain things, and in that surrendering and going, okay, universe, okay, whatever is happening, process, and going with it, that's where the changes come. And you've said you're happier now, you're more fulfilled now that you're aligned, which is what it has to be. It's, but you've stopped and you've looked back. You've given yourself that time to do that. So another question I want to ask you is what do you do as part of a practice to allow yourself to look at what's going on around you? What do you do as tools have you got to manage just this whole process?
I think I do have a regular morning practice that I do every morning, and to align and to be and to let go of everything that is not needed anymore. And so I have a spiritual practice that is very much based on the Inca wisdom. I use some, cleansing tools that I got from the Andean traditions, and I love that. And I'm grounding myself, and I'm aligning myself as before I get out of bed, and because then I can, see things with fresh eyes when I get out into the world, right? So trying to cleanse all that's no longer necessary for me, and I'm ready to release. to step out into the world with open eyes and as much as aligned as I can be. And then I guess I'm an observer to look for alignments every day. So I see, and that's just what I've done for so many years. I can't help it. Is that, oh, there's a message to me over there that's coming. That's not, I don't take anything as a coincidence. I listen very carefully about who I meet, what they say that is aligned with where I'm heading or where I'm away from. And I use it intentionally every day to adjust and align throughout the day. So if I use my intuition very much, so if I get an inspiration to do something, I'll follow it today. I didn't do that 2018. I was very good at it, but I didn't do it every time. Today, I know that it's fully aligned also means follow that intuition when it gets there. Yeah. And so then I see what's coming back. Okay, this is what I needed to learn. And so I have a learning mindset, and I've always had that. I think one of the most important things that I do every day, besides aligning myself before I go out of bed and do my morning practice, is that I look out for signs of synchronicity. I take them very seriously. I read, in my outer world, I kind of get the information that I need to assess whether I should go in this direction, in that direction. So every time I set my intention to something, I will get, people saying something to me that would be like, okay, interesting, because I just had this thought, or I just had this conversation with someone about something, and now he's telling me this, or she's telling, I must listen to this. And so I take everything seriously in some way as a sign of where to go next, or what not to do, what to do and what not to do. So in that sense, I see myself very much in like it's a cooperation of creating my life as the best version of my life. And so besides looking out for signs, I also use my intuition a lot, right? So before this situation, I always had a very good intuition, but what I've learned from this process the last 6 years is that it should be every time that I hear my inner voice tell me something, I should listen and do it or not do it. And it's always been, it can be very difficult to, when it comes to your own life, to know whether it's an intuition or if it's a wish or if it's a want or it's, but this process has actually helped me to be very clear on when it's my intuition that tells me where to go and what to do. And I have learned to trust it completely. And this is about trust, right? Because I used to be, control and, actually understanding that it's very difficult to control the outcome of your life if you're not trust your instinct and your intuition, and you actually go with what feels right for you and what your intuition tells you should do. That's where actually the control is. But we try to control our lives in so many other ways. And I have seen that this process has also been a very, a process of coming into like full faithful living compared to control up against. So that's a very important lesson that I've learned is that really go dare to do that. And then when there's something that I want, I always be very clear about it, set an intention to manifest it, and then make sure that I act on it too. But I don't run for it. I more set the intention saying, this is what I want now. This is what I would, this is my intention to create to, for example, a book contract. This is where I'm heading now. And I leave it.
Mm-hmm.
But I then use my ability to be in flow and look out for synchronicity and use my intuition and all these things to actually get there easily, and then life becomes really fun. Yeah. Yep. So that's what, going through life every day, that's what I'm curious about, how to use myself as the creator of my life intentionally. And being aware when I create something unintentionally. And then I'm like, oh, I take full responsibility for my life. I guess that's something that I also now is, 100% aligned with. Also, the choice that I had, the time where I had to choose from, where I had to choose to become a mom or not. I have recently looked back and looked at it and said, oh my God, this was how it was supposed to happen. Because I wouldn't have been able to give up on that dream of becoming a mom and that wish of becoming a mom if it hasn't been this intense and painful and clear that was the choice that I was up against. If I had just, it would have been a two-way, a too big thing. And I would always have known, if I've done it not so clearly as I did this time, I would have had that door open if it was the right choice to follow and go to do my work in India and stop the process of not knowing what would come out of it, So I had to have this experience, concrete experience, to be this clear about it and find peace with that and understanding that this too was something that was so important for my greater good. That was mind blowing. And then I knew that I was finally here, that I could, that now I'm ready to let go of the process that I've been in and actually say that now this is here now, and now I'm looking forward. And the past is no longer in many ways, it's no longer interfering. Not my childhood, not my youth, not the past 4 years. I can be in the here and now in a completely different way than what I used to. So I guess there was so many gifts that I've been showing that it was worth the while going through the process, but I didn't, but I've been screaming and crying and shouting and being, what the hell is this happening? Being all, you know that how you can get to that point where you just, And there's always been this trust that, okay, it is for my greater good, but it was first when it kind of settled that I completely took it in and it felt 100% and I saw the greater picture. Then I could let go. And I know that all is well. And that I remind myself every day. All is well. Even though it doesn't even though it doesn't appear that way sometimes in the outer world.
Thank you. That was a remarkable story. And Rikke, I just take my hat off to you again. What you've been through and the grace that you've gone through with that, just to make sense of it, and then coming on here and sharing it, because I can feel that. What the is going on? I don't understand. The tears, the rage, the bloody knuckles from the walls, all that kind of stuff. There is no sense at the time. It is frustrating. It is scary. It is very scary. People don't understand. Family members say, "Why are you doing that? Just stay small. Stay who you used to be." And you've gone, no. There is value in what I'm doing. I believe in myself. You know, you've had to, and you've been given gift after gift. And I think what you're doing is remarkable. And I'm really, really appreciate you being on the show and just sharing everything that you've experienced.
I'm very happy to be able to share it with you, Hamish. It's been a fantastic experience to to share it with you and your audience, but also to hopefully it. You know, my motto is remember there's hope for healing. And so maybe provide a little bit of hope that for people who's going through processes similar to mine, is that actually there is a meaning to it. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it is a redirection for the greater good, for the higher vision and the higher purpose. And, you know, it doesn't feel comfortable and it doesn't feel good at all while it's there, but there is reason to it. There's reason in the madness, and there is the meaning, and all is well. And I guess, you know, I'm sitting here and saying, hey, create a movement of women supporting women internationally. You know, I would never have thought that I was able to do that, but I still haven't done it. But I'm absolutely sure that I'm not letting go of that vision. So I guess no matter what people might have, the call that they have heard, you know, I remember Jack Canfield saying to me once, or saying out to us, you know, saying you're not given a bigger vision than one you can get out into the world. Yeah. So I guess that's an important, well, for me, you know, an important message to people who might watch this and listen to it, and to know that if you see it, you can do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't get it. You know, it's like,
yeah,
they land
absolutely.
the visions land in the right, the visions, whatever it is, they land in the right hands.
Rikke, thank you for that. Now, where can people find out more about you? You've mentioned your book. Give us a title. Tell us a little bit about that, and then where we can find you.
My book is coming out the 21st of June, and it's Routledge that publish it, and it's called A Professional's Guide to Working with Vulnerable and Traumatized Children, The Healing Circle. So that's a professional book, and maybe people have asked me if you could gain any knowledge as an, you know, ordinary person not into the child protection field to know about trauma and development, and I guess you can, but it is written for professionals. And I have my Sister Power International has a homepage that says Sister Power International, like sisterpower.org. Yeah. And you can, and it's written in English, so you can actually go and have a look and see what we're doing. And then I've also got a Save Children, a business called Save Children. And so that's the one based in Denmark. But I'm also going international with that now, with my book coming out and with requests from around the world.
And where can people find you on social media?
You can find me. You can find my Save Children on Save Children International. Also, Save Children on Facebook. Also, my name. You can find me with my name on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and also, and I connect with people there too, individually. So, and on Instagram, it's just the R and then Ludvigsen.
And Rikke, there is one last question. What is the superpower that you got from your awakening?
Wow, I love that question. If I should choose only one,
Only one.
I got so many muscles from it, I think. But I guess it would be compassion slash self-compassion.
Wonderful. Yep. Very, very powerful. I love that.
Yeah, I think that would be it.
Well, Rikke, thank you ever so much for being on the show, for your time, your enthusiasm, your compassion, and just allowing people to understand that, yeah, an awakening isn't always easy. It may be incredibly tough. But
Can
you know
I have
you've made the right choice.
Sorry, can I have two?
Go on, give me another one.
Because I like double up. No, hope. You know, my motto is really hope for healing, right? Remember, there is hope for healing.
Well, Rikke, thank you ever so much for everything today. That's been a fantastic show. There's been so much to think about, so many keywords you've dropped in there, but so much wisdom and compassion and gentleness in that process that is ultimately overwhelming unless you are able to be intentional, full of grace, and, as you said, compassionate. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Crucible, Conversations for the Curious. If these powerful stories of transformation resonated with you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this show with anyone who you think could do with a dose of inspiration for their own journey. I would really appreciate it if you could make any comments on your favorite podcast platform as well. That helps me reach more people. All the important links and information are in the show notes below. Thank you very much for listening, and catch up with you soon.